Hello friends. Welcome to yet another episode of Mind Matters. Hope you all are doing great. Get ready for a trip down memory lane as we explore the fascinating history of Bharat. Today on Mind Matters, we will be uncovering the defining moments and events that took place on this day in our beloved country. From the births, deaths, and deeds of legendary leaders and villains of our history to the battles that determine the course of our great nation, we will delve deep into the rich tapestry of India's past. Join us as we pay tribute to the heroes of our nation and celebrate the moments that have shaped our history. So, grab a cup of tea and settle in for a journey through time on Mind Matters. Today is 2nd February. Let's see what all events occurred in Bharat on this date. In 1314, Saint Narahari Sonar, a poet saint of the 13th century AD, attained Samadhi on this date. Sant Narahari Sonar was a famous goldsmith and strong devotee of Lord Shiva in the Pandharpur district of Maharashtra, where the famous temple of Lord Vitthal is situated. He belonged to the Vishwakarma Brahman society. There is an interesting story about his birth and life transformation. He was blessed to his parents, Achyuta and Savitri, after a very long time of their marriage, by the blessings of Lord Shiva, in the year 1260 AD, on the Magha Purnima, that is, the full moon day, in the Hindu month of Magha. The name Narhari was given to him by Saint Sangdev Maharaj, who had made a prophecy that Narhari will go on to become the one who will eliminate the difference between Hari, that is Lord Vishnu, and Hara, that is Lord Shiva. Narhari grew up to be a staunch Shiva devotee and never used to worship any other deity. Saint Namdev, a very famous saint of his time, used to advise him frequently that Vitthal and Shiva are one and the same. But Narhari would never listen. However, one day, while making a gold chain for a Vitthal devotee, Narhari had a realization that Pandurang, that is Vitthal, and Lord Shankar, that is Shiva, are not different but one. This realization transformed Narhari's life, and he became immersed in the devotion of Vitthal, who appeared to him and revealed the truth. His descendants are known as Narahari goldsmiths. His original surname was Mahamuni, and he was a descendant of Ramchandra Sadashiv Sonar, great Muni. His Samadhi is still worshipped by his descendants. Saint Narahari Sonar is considered to be a great saint in the Varkari tradition and is remembered for his devotion to Lord Vitthal. He was the first Shaiva devotee who, after realizing the unity of Shiva and Vitthal, changed his path to devotion to Lord Vitthal. He left a lasting mark of devotion throughout Maharashtra and is remembered for his transformation from a staunch Shiva devotee to a devout Vitthal devotee. His devotion to Lord Vitthal continued to inspire people to this day. Narhari Maharaj, as he is fondly called, has written 83 devotional poems known as Abhang, 1 Pandurang Stotra, and 1 Aarti, in praise of Lord Vitthal. For your information, Varkari tradition is a devotional bhakti movement that originated in the state of Maharashtra. It revolves around the worship of the Hindu deity Vithoba, who is considered a form of Lord Vishnu. The followers of this tradition are called Varkaris, who perform an annual pilgrimage to the temple town of Pandharpur. The Varkaris are known for their simple lifestyle, devotion, and community singing of devotional hymns and poems known as bhajans during their pilgrimage. The Varkari tradition promotes a message of love, compassion, and social equality, and has been a significant cultural and spiritual movement in Western India for several centuries. 1784. You all are aware of the East India Company, right? Well, they were the ones in charge of ruling India on behalf of the British government. But things were not always perfect, and there was a need for change. That's when William Pitt the Younger, the British Prime Minister at the time, came up with the Pitt's India Act in 1784 on this day. This act aimed to address the flaws of the previous Regulating Act of 1773 and bring much-needed improvements to the way the East India Company was governed. The Pitt's India Act introduced the concept of dual control, where the responsibility of governing British colonies was divided between two entities, the British government and the local colonial assemblies. The British government retained control over important aspects, such as choosing governors and judges, while the local colonial assemblies were given more power in areas like collecting taxes and administering justice. This created a balance of power and ensured accountability. Under this act, a board of control was established, consisting of 6 government appointees to represent the government, while the company was represented by the court of directors. The act also brought changes, such as reducing the strength of the Governor-General Council and giving the Governor-General more power in matters of war, revenue, and diplomacy. Calcutta became the capital of British possessions in India, and all officers were required to disclose their properties. The Pitt's India Act brought much-needed changes to the way the East India Company was governed and played a crucial role in the administration of British India. The dual system of government, established by this act, continued until the end of the company's rule in India in 1858. And that, my friends, is the story of William Pitt the Younger and the Pitt's India Act. 1814. On 2nd February 1814, the Calcutta Museum was established. The museum, which was known in the beginning as the Asiatic Society Museum, subsequently came to be known as the Imperial Museum and later familiarized as the Indian Museum. The museum is more familiar by the name Jadughar or Ajab Ghar among the visitors. Let us first take a journey back in time to the last quarter of the 18th century. It all started with the formation of the Asiatic Society of Bengal in 1784 by William Jones, who was a British scholar who aimed to create a learning center for the development of art, culture, and preservation of cultural and natural heritage in Asia. In 1796, the members of the Asiatic Society thought of establishing a museum, and in 1808, they found a suitable location. In 1814, a museum was finally established at the Asiatic Society with Dr. Nathaniel Wallich as the honorary curator. Dr. Nathaniel Wallich, for your information, was a surgeon and botanist of Danish origin who worked in India, initially in the Danish settlement near Calcutta, and later for the Danish East India Company and the British East India Company. He was involved in the early development of the Calcutta Botanical Garden. Over the years, the Indian Museum grew and expanded, and by 1856, the members of the society submitted a memorial to the Government of India for the establishment of an imperial museum. In 1862, the Government of India announced the foundation of a public museum, and after negotiations, the society handed over its collections to the trustees for the proposed museum. Today, the Indian Museum has grown into one of the largest and most significant museums in India, showcasing India's rich cultural heritage and history. 1835. No Indian who loves this holy land of Bharat must forget this date, 2nd February 1835. Why? Listen closely, for I have a tale to tell. A tale of the man who dared to impose his will on a nation and its people. A tale of Thomas Babington Macaulay, the British historian and politician, who presented his infamous Minute on Indian Education on 2nd February 1835. The British had initially disregarded the importance of education in colonial India and focused solely on profits from trade. But slowly, the company began establishing a few institutes of higher learning, teaching subjects in Indian languages like Sanskrit and also Arabic and Persian, the latter being the court language. The Charter Act of 1813 marked the first step towards modern education in India, setting aside funds for educating the subjects. Missionaries, with the motive of Christianizing the heathen natives, were already involved in the education sector. However, the British were split on the mode of education to be imparted to Indians. While the Orientalists believed in educating Indians in their own languages and texts, the other group believed in the superiority of English education. It was in this context that Macaulay arrived in India in June 1834 as the president of the General Committee of Public Instruction. A proud Englishman, convinced of his nation's greatness, Macaulay had little regard for anything Indian, and his Minute on Education reveals this bias. In his Minute, Macaulay advocated for the use of English as a medium of instruction and the teaching of Western education to Indians, deriding Indian knowledge and languages as worthless. He called for the shutting down of all colleges teaching only Eastern philosophy, and kept a proposal for the government to educate only a few Indians who would in turn teach the masses. His ultimate goal was to create a class of Indians who would be loyal to the British and serve their interests. Macaulay's proposals were promptly accepted by Lord William Bentinck, but he cleverly deferred its implementation. Bentinck did not completely shut down Oriental learning as proposed by Macaulay. Macaulay's proposals were officially sanctioned in March 1835, and in 1837, English became the court language, and in 1844, high government posts were open to Indians. The Woods Dispatch in 1854 regularized British efforts for education in India. Macaulay's Minute set the tone for education in India, and although the number of English-speaking Indians is small, the English language has been adapted and Indianized to such an extent that it is often unrecognizable to a native English speaker. Macaulay's dream of creating Englishmen out of Indians may be debatable, but the moral victory lies with the Indians in this English versus native debate. The number of people using vernacular languages is increasing and the literature is expanding, proving Macaulay wrong in his prediction of their eventual death. That brings us to the end of part 1 of events that occurred in Bharat on 2nd February. Have a great day ahead.